turn now to gold, though, and speak to Thomas Bachheimer. He is CEO of Meridian Commodity Advisors. Let's take a look at what's going on with gold today. Just adding about 0.4% or so. 900. Do you know, my eyes can't even look that far. 914.3, I'm told. Anyway, let's get straight to the guest. Thanks for coming and joining us today. Why don't you give us your general thoughts on gold to start with? Commodities have, as you pointed out in your notes earlier, lost some ground over the past 9 months. Where do we stand on precious metals, though?
Okay, yeah, we had a big selling pressure last year, and the bottom of gold was in October. And comparing, gold is showing always or indicating some inflation pressure, and therefore it's firstly bottoming, and gold bottomed in October, and energy prices bottomed in February. So the gold was indicating the inflation pressure, and the longer the time between the bottom of the gold and the bottom of the energy market is, the less severe the inflation pressure is. What we had now is, compared to the last 25 years, we had only four months of between those two bottoms, and that shows that we are undergoing some severe inflation risk, and that's the reason why gold should undergo a long-term upwards move from now on.
How far up do you believe they're going to go then?
I would be pretty much surprised if we won't reach 1,200 to 1,500 by end of this year.
Thomas, you're going to have to discover a tighter link to core U.S. inflation than has previously been proven if you're going to get to $1,500 on inflation concern, because that correlation is incredibly small at best to non-existent at worst since the early 1980s.
I did not understand. What do you mean with that?
What I mean is that there's a correlation between gold prices and core U.S. inflation of only about 7%, i.e. gold prices have really had no correlation to core U.S. inflation over the last 20 years.
Okay, but there is a severe correlation between money supply and money supply growth and gold prices, because gold is standing against the money. Our currency system is nothing else than a substitute for gold. And we are measuring, or the gold price is measuring, how our politicians are doing with the substitute. And we are messing around with the substitute. Bernanke was, for example, doubling the monetary base in the last 6 months. And this, of course, is putting some severe inflation pressure for the next couple of months and years. And of course, this will turn gold prices higher, because we produced much more money than we produced gold. So more money is competing for the less amount of gold. And that's my clue how I imagine that, and how I think, why I think gold has to turn up tremendously in the next couple of months.
Okay, Thomas, let's take that hypothesis then, and I'll take you at your word, and I think it's an easy one to understand. Why on earth are we $100 below the high that we hit in March of last year, when governments around the world have done nothing but throw money at the credit crisis? I mean, money supply, just as you say, has doubled in the last 6 months. Gold hasn't budged.
Of course, yeah, there are some big, mighty groups who are interested in putting some pressure on the gold, because you can measure the work of the politicians. And I think they have the possibilities to pressure it down. For example, when we see what happened to Bear Stearns, exactly when we were on 1,000 last March, as you said before, Bear Stearns had to fall down, and JP Morgan overtook Bear Stearns, and Bear Stearns was known to have 25% of the world gold production short contracts. And what happened then? All of a sudden, when Bear Stearns was in the hands of JP Morgan, including the short positions, all of a sudden the gold price was going down by $300. So maybe there will be some time, and there will be some forces in the near future that we can hold down the gold price, but I don't think on the long end we cannot hold it, and on the long end we for sure will go over 1,000 and over 2,000.
Thomas, just quickly before we release you, how about the fundamentals in the gold market? How's the demand picture looking now?
As far as I know, in the last couple of years, we always had a deficit in production. We always used or sold 4,000 tons of gold and only produced 2,500 tons. But much more interesting is the buying motivation. The traditional jewelry buyers out from India are more price sensitive than the buyers who are buying gold for inflation protection, like Chinese. So all those inflation protection buyers and investment buyers took the loss or the lack or the missing buying of the traditional buyers. And I think this shows the picture of the gold price, that the motivation or the guys who are, the people who are buying the gold are completely different from 2 years ago.
Thanks very much for coming to speak to us today, Thomas Bachheimer, CEO of Meridian Commodity Advisors.